Welcome to Laughter for All. It's the podcast with Comedian Nazareth.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Laughter for All podcast. I am Comedian Nazareth, and thank you for joining me on this podcast. As you know, I haven't been posting anything for the last 32 days since this whole war, this whole genocide, whole thing going on in in the Holy Land, and that's just it's just been crazy. My wife's from the Gaza Strip, my family, my mom and dad are from there, so it's just been so difficult. So I still have to do my job as a comedian because that's what what you do. You got to make a living. You got to continue to pay your mortgage. You got to continue to pay your bills, and life does not stop when there's a conflict anywhere else in the world. And we had our own 2 years of of no work. So anyway, so these podcasts recently, I've just been specific about bringing friends, even though they're funny, they're comedians, they're entertainers. What we do is we try to lift you up, encourage you, and honor Jesus, and that's the most important thing. Everything about my life is to honor the Lord Jesus Christ. So anyway, this I just came in from on Friday. I did a gala for in Dinuba, California, for the Dawning Crisis Pregnancy Center, and it was very successful, sold out, and a lot of people they raised money, a lot of money to help women, who decide to keep their babies to be able to learn more how to raise the babies and to have the resources to take care of their babies. So praise God for that. And then Sunday morning, I was speaking at Life Point Church in Arroyo Grande, uh, Central Coast, California. And then Sunday night, I joined Robert G. Lee, the comedian, my comedy writing partner, and we did a concert at Pacific Christian Center in Santa Maria, California. Anyway, this Friday is a big Laughter for All concert. Laughter for All outreach at Crossroad Church in Corona, California. Please come, please invite friends, lots of your unsafe friends, lots of your unchurched friends, lots of your friends, and just come and laugh. It's free. It's free because Laughter for All is taking care of it, and it's free. But we encourage you to bring a can of food, a grocery bag that to be able to feed the community in the Corona area for Thanksgiving and the holidays and Christmas. So just bring some groceries and just come in and laugh. It's going to be great. We're going to have Robert G. Lee hosting the show. We're going to have Christian McCartney, who's huge on TikTok and Instagram. He's going to be doing comedy. Michael Rayner, who's a great variety act. He's just high energy. He's going to be with us. And then I will be able to do comedy and then encourage you at the end and give an invitation to Christ. So invite your friends, invite your family. Go to laughterforall.org and get your free tickets. And we'll see you there. Enough of that. Right now, I want to bring a friend. I had the pleasure of, working with him last month in Crossville, Tennessee, for Jonah's Joy, a ministry that helps young girls, who are in trouble or who have problems to be able to just lead a healthy life. So we were able to just go headline this, and he was amazing. He was so funny, but yet he was so powerful in what he does. So I asked him to be on the podcast, and he accepted, which is great. Let me introduce his name. It's Scott Humston. He has led an extraordinary life, overcoming a speech-related birth defect to become a full-time illusionist, speaker, and evangelist. He now devotes his life to the art of educating through entertainment. Scott holds a BA in Communication Studies and Dramatic Art and has been awarded professional and community awards for his encouragement to people. Touring more than 40,000 miles a year, not including flying. He's been seen coast to coast and abroad, even 3 shows at the White House. And he had, over the last 25 years, entertained, motivated, and inspired people of all ages. Actually, more than 3 million people have seen his show. Please welcome my friend Scott Humston. Scott, how are you?
Hey, Nazareth, I'm great. How are you?
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me, man.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, we already have 108 people watching, so we'll give you an opportunity, people, later on to ask questions to Scott. But we're gonna start. Where's home for you, Scott, right now?
So, I am in beautiful Mount Dora, Florida. It's north of
Uh,
Disney. Everybody knows where that is. So, north of
yes,
Orlando, I'm about 45 minutes from the backside of Disney World. So, just
wonderful. So, do you go
north of
there a
Disney.
lot, or you don't?
Well, we used to. I think I've been once this year. We used to have passes, annual passes, but not since COVID. Actually, have we had annual passes? So that's on our short list. But yeah. So yes, a lot in the past. No, not so much right now. So
Same here. I'm about 20 minutes from Disneyland. My
okay.
wife and daughters have the annual passes, but I haven't been there in like 10 years. I have no desire to go.
Wow.
I don't like crowds.
Right.
I just don't know. It's a lot of work to
A
go to a Disney.
comedian that doesn't like crowds. That's
I
awesome.
know. I
That's
like
great.
to be in front of the crowd, not among, among the crowd. But also,
More than
if you
50
go,
people in the show, you can't do it. More than 50 people, I can't.
if you go by yourself, if I go by myself, maybe I'll enjoy it. But when you go with your family, you're responsible to go. Oh, can you go get this? Can you go get us? Can you go stand in line and wait for us while we finish this ride
Right.
and get to the
Right.
other? So I'm like, no,
I-
thank
If
you.
if you've ever been to Disney World or Disneyland with a 3-year-old or younger, it is
Uh-huh.
not the happiest place on earth.
Not
Just
for you.
no,
So how many
no,
children do you have?
no. I have four amazing kids. Yeah, four kids.
Four.
Two out of the house,
Uh-huh.
and two more still in the house. So yeah,
Now,
uh,
40,000 miles a year on travel, not including flights. How's your kids feel about that?
well, I have to say, let me clarify that the bio a little bit there. So that was certainly before COVID. I
Uh-huh.
don't travel. I'm in a different season of life right now. Still drive a lot, but so we toured a lot, 40,000 miles a year actually, more than that some years. But we traveled as a family. We've been in Mount Dora. I've lived here for 26 years. Born in Florida. My wife's from Florida, but we moved here from Nashville. But
Mm.
a long time ago. But we actually traveled in a motorhome for 10 years as a family of six. While the kids were growing, we would go out for a week or two, sometimes 4 weeks at a time. I tell people we did that before Instagram. So we missed, it's too bad. We could have made some extra money on that side hustle, but we did it before it was cool.
So it was like homeschooled. You homeschooled your wife and in
Yes.
the
Yes.
motor home, and you just go to a gig, do it, and just
Yeah.
enjoy the country.
Yeah. So we would literally, my wife had the idea. I was traveling a lot, and she's like, "Why don't we buy a pop up trailer, and then we can put it behind the we had a Suburban at the time, and she put it behind there, and we could go with you some." And but I'm like, I don't can't do a pop up. So we ended up
Yeah.
buying a 29-foot pull behind trailer, and we had it for about a year and really liked it. It wasn't, you know, obviously tire issues and all those sorts of things when you're on the road, but it was very handy. But we would park it, and we were limited on where we could park it, of course. And then they were stuck in the trailer, and then I'm off to the gig with the show, or vice versa. So after a year, I thought, I really like this, but I think a motorhome would be better. So we actually looked at a couple of tour buses and motorhomes, and there really wasn't much for a family of six. Honestly, the bigger the motorhome, unless you buy what's called a star coach with 6 bunks in it,
Right.
um, there wasn't a whole lot of options. So we ended up with what's called a Class C motorhome. It's really built for families, and it had pass through storage underneath for all my stuff. And yeah, it was great. It was the it was a great day to have it, and it was a great day to sell it when we sold it. So
So now, what do you call it? Does any of your kids really have any desire to be entertainers, or are they any of them in the entertainment business?
I'm holding out hope for the last two. My oldest is a social worker in Mississippi.
Okay.
My second oldest, she is a nurse in Nashville. And then my son just turned 17, not even a week ago, and he is a drummer. He wants to do that professionally, and he's very good, actually.
Mm.
And so he's put together a band, and he, of course, plays at our church, but plays other gigs and for other churches. And excuse me. And so, and then our littlest one, she's 15. Um, and there's entertainer in all of them, but she wants to study missions and um, do something overseas as a missionary, she says. So
Wow.
I
Yeah.
don't know. The entertainment aspect may have to skip a generation. I don't know.
It's funny. I was talking to Robert, another comedian. He was talking that, Nate Bargatze, the famous right now, he was just on Saturday Night Live. He's a clean comedian, but his dad was a Christian magician.
Yeah, his dad's a friend of mine, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so
Steve Bargatze and I, we met actually when I moved to Nashville. So more than 30 years ago, we met because he's in Nashville. And yeah, so it's been great to see Nate take this amazing journey. I don't know Nate. I mean,
I
I'm
don't
sure that
either.
we crossed paths when he was a kid because of his dad being in Nashville. But his dad and I have known each other for a long time. We're not, you know, super best friends, but we certainly have known each other a long time, and we'll see each other at magic conventions and that sort of thing, and catch up. And Steven's a great guy. He actually has a similar story to mine, but anyhow, and went to the same university I did actually for a short time,
Oh,
which is fascinating. Yeah, it was crazy. It's crazy. And then I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who's a children associate pastor at a church, and he's talking about his pastor and his pastor's wife is cousins with the Bargazzis, so they're cousins. So I'd forgotten about that actually. So
yeah.
anyhow, but
N-
yeah, but Nate is
Now,
killing it right now.
now, what is the difference? Is there a difference when someone uses a magician or illusionist? Is there a difference in the terms or in the performance?
Yes, so David Copperfield would always say this. He would say, if you call yourself an illusionist, you can get paid 30% more. That was seriously, that was Copperfield's answer. Um, in the There's a couple different ways to look at that. So in the church world, a lot of
Hmm.
people like to refer to it as an illusionist because it's not magic, right? Um, and so they would refer to a magician as an illusionist, just a easier term for people to understand and not maybe confusing with the word magic.
Right.
In the magic world, in the art of illusion world, the art of magic world, the that illusion means a large stage illusions,
Hmm.
basically. And
Right.
so that would be the concept of an illusionist, that you're doing something, a larger illusion. Um, but I always start out by basically saying this: magicians do tricks, God does miracles, and there's a big difference. So
That's right. Now, have
yeah.
you had any challenges in the Christian? I know maybe it's changing now; it's better now. But thinking, oh, you're bringing a magician to our church.
Oh,
Have you?
um, yes. The short answer is yes. In the last 10 years, not so much. When I was a kid in Lakeland, I was doing an event. This is a great story. I was doing an
Yes.
event uh, at a shopping center. Right, I'm like 16, um, and uh, it was outside. Again, outside. It was a Publix. We have Publix grocery stores here in
Yeah.
Florida, and the headquarters actually in Lakeland, where I grew up. So anyhow, I was outside of Publix in like a shopping center, and it was some promotion. The people that owned the shopping center were doing. They hired me, but these very well-meaning people came up and pray with me and tried to, they laid hands on me and tried to, something is wrong with you. You're doing this magic show. And I had to actually interrupt their prayer. And I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm supposed to be working. They hired me to do this show. And I appreciate what your point is here, but I think it's a little, you don't quite have your facts straight. So
Now,
yeah.
you said you were 16. When did you start doing the illusions and why?
Okay. So I was born at a very young age.
Oh, you did. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
me, but that's, yeah.
No, you were born as
I
an
was an
older.
adult when mom gave birth to me.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
really hard. And so
For her,
I,
not me.
I was, that's right. So I was born with a cleft lip and palate, and so lots of surgery. So
Mm.
I was a small kid, and my mom and dad didn't want a ball hit me in the face. No sports, no skateboarding, and all that kind of thing,
Mm.
which I wanted to do. So we had a magician, a guy who would come to my father was a pastor and come to our church, and he would do vacation Bible school events and kids crusades, and um, he would do those things, and would I saw that as a kid, and so that just intrigued me. Let me adjust my camera just a little bit here. That intrigued
Yeah.
me, and so I was able to do that, and kind of my personality was able to come through that with the tricks,
Hmm.
and so that's really honestly was a blessing, blessing to me. Let me adjust the light up here. I think this is getting bad on people. Excuse me just a minute. There we go. We'll do
That's
that.
fine.
Can you still see me okay?
Actually, it was better before.
Was it? Okay. All right. All right.
That's
I'll turn it
fine.
back on here. Let me be right back. Here we go. Here we go. All right. There we go. Just trying to get them off my glasses. So,
Yeah.
the so just as a kid, I started performing magic shows, and churches were the first place I did my shows at. Actually, was in churches. So
So
yeah.
your dad was a pastor, so
Yes.
you were a believer at an early age and doing
Right.
that and
Yeah.
then you went to college and you studied communication and arts and all that. Was your family okay with that? Was your dad, or did he want you to be a pastor or?
So my mom would always say, "Don't you want to be a pastor like your dad?" Now, I am a pastor now. We talked about
Yeah.
that. I can talk a little bit more about that, but um, I really felt like that I had a calling, and I still do, to use entertainment and magic and comedy to um, share the gospel, like and really use that as a bridge building to people. And so my dad was afraid. I think I was going to turn into a degenerate loafer, he would say. Um, but he after I worked my way through college doing it, I think he was pretty happy about it.
That's good.
He realized that, hey, you could do this, for real. So yeah.
We're both use our our gifting, comedy, magic,
Right.
ability to speak, to share the good news of Jesus Christ,
Right.
and that's something we chose to do because you could have been in the mainstream and doing corporates, and you can make a lot of money at that,
Right.
but you chose to be able to, you have that drive to want to share the good news of Jesus and stuff. Now, is there's a way, uh, when you're, yeah, and this could be encouraging to young people who are listening to this and watching, that
Okay.
want to share the gospel. Do you have like a system or a style of how to bring the good news during your show?
Yes. So I have a philosophy
Hmm.
that's rooted in the truth of the gospel, or rooted in the truth of the scriptures, is that God promises to bless the preaching of his word,
Mm-hmm.
and that his word doesn't come back void. He doesn't
Yeah.
promise to bless magic tricks or jokes. And so I really use the tricks and jokes and to really hopefully connect with people, and
Mm-hmm.
then having their attention, then just sharing a word and not trying to confuse too much those two things. There is a lot of people that will use what they call gospel magic tricks to get a
Mm.
message across. And that can be done well. I've seen it done well. I've seen it done very poorly too, but it can be done well. And of course, Christ taught through parables, right? I mean, he taught through stories. People see we relate to stories. It's such a human thing, those stories. So my preference is to get people's attention,
Uh-huh.
let them laugh, right? Connecting. There's nothing like laughter, right? To break down walls of people, and then just share with them from my heart and share a message that God has laid on my heart, and and not always mixing it with a trick, if that makes sense. So separating it, but yet using it as a tool to get people's attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I use the
Yeah.
same way myself. I use that, but uh, was there like, let's say, how long does it take you to learn like one trick or one thing that you can now take it to the stage and do it well every single time?
Um, yeah. So I think it really depends. If it's it might be a trick that I can learn in 5 minutes, literally,
Mm.
or it might be a trick that takes years of practice, and
Mm.
you might still be doing it in front of an audience, but you're really practicing. It's still not perfect every time. So there are multiple answers to that, if that makes sense.
Right, right.
Um, yeah. So
Have you
there. Go ahead.
have you ever done one that you worked hard on, but it flopped on like like it didn't work, like, or the
Uh,
what you expected was not.
well, I will tell you something. One of my favorite stories. So, I do a
Okay.
trick where I draw a picture of a bowling ball,
Uh-huh.
and uh, then the bowling ball falls from. There's like a drawing pad, and the bowling ball falls out. It becomes a real bowling ball. Okay,
Mm.
and then the pad's empty, so the drawing vanishes. It's a great trick, and there's many magicians out there that do a trick or similar trick. I
Uh-huh.
had just gotten that trick from the builder, the inventor, and was
Uh-huh.
practicing. I went to a friend's church actually years ago. I was over in the Tampa area working on doing some shows, and so I went to his church and practiced because it's not an easy trick to do because you're making a bowling ball appear, and it's a real
Right.
bowling ball.
It's
Um,
heavy.
yeah, and so I practiced it and practiced it and practiced it, and thought I had it down. So that night, I was going to premiere it in this show, and there's 400 or 500 people. It was at a school family night, and as I was doing the trick, in the beginning of the trick, this kid at this precise moment, like the timing was just perfect between two music tracks that come in. This kid, oh, I know what he's going to do. He's going to drop a bowling ball out of that. And he says it loud enough for everybody to hear, which just
Ah.
spoiled the surprise, right? Well, what I found out later is that there was a show on Disney Channel for years called The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah, I
you ever
remember that
your
show. Yeah,
kids
Zack
watch
and
that
Cody.
show. They did that trick on that show, like that same week that I was doing
Oh.
that. I got the trick. They did the same trick, and so all of these kids for the next few weeks, if they saw my show, they saw that The Sweet Life with Zach and Cody. Oh yeah, it's the same trick. So I'm like, ah. So
Oh
anyhow,
man.
I thought that was a funny moment, you know. So
Now, how do you deal with, like, nowadays with social media and TikTok and Instagram? There's people going out magician and spoiling the tricks. Like, this is how they do it, and it kind of ruins the excitement. How do you guys
yeah,
feel
so
about that?
again, there are two schools of thought on that.
Mhm.
I don't want to get too lost in the weeds, but yeah, is it bad that they're exposing the tricks?
Yes.
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah. However, um, there are certain tricks, certain effects that if people have an idea of how they work, I think you become somewhat respectful of the artist pulling it off. For instance, I can tell you how a piano works, and I can tell you how somebody plays the piano. I
Mm,
can't play the piano. Uh, I can explain it to you in my limited knowledge, right? I can watch a video that shows me how to play a piano,
hmm.
but I still can't play it because there's practice in it, right?
Right.
Um, and lots of practice in it. So that's a thought. In other words, if you have a little bit of skill or understand a little bit of the skill of the art of magic,
Uh-huh.
I think you can appreciate it a lot more. Um, and the real truth is, for years, if somebody wanted to figure out something, like when I was a kid, their videos were just starting to come out. The VHS tapes, I could borrow one from a friend and learn how to do some tricks. But if I really wanted to learn, I would go to the library and check out books, and that's how
Mm,
I learned. So now, if you want to learn, you just go on YouTube, and you figure it out, right? But YouTube and books. I mean, I still love books, but books have been exposing magic tricks for years. Um, and so, really, the idea hasn't changed at all. The method has changed, right? Videos versus books. Are videos much more accessible than books?
right.
Certainly, yes. But books have been around. I mean, you know, for many, many years, um, have been exposing, if you want to say that, a magic trick. So,
Now, you're not only doing magic tricks, you're very funny and you were fast on your feet. I was very impressed
thank you.
because I was watching you. You're fast, you're a comedian, but you also do magic. But can you do a comedy show with that if you forget your stuff?
Um, I have things I could do that require no props, if that's the
Oh,
question.
I see.
Would it be just
Right.
stand-up comedy? It would be a very short show.
Mm.
Now, I'm I, ultimately I'm a storyteller,
Mhm.
and so I I can certainly do that, and share stories, and I like to do that. So as I've gotten older, the tricks have gotten less, and the stories and the comedy have gotten more. So
Mm. That's
yeah,
neat.
I've not ever been in that position. I always like to say that my biggest prop is the audience anyway. Um, so
Right. Right. Now, do you practice on your kids and do that like that? Stop it enough?
occasionally I do. If it's something new, I remember a few years ago I was working on a trick that I'd always wanted to do, and it was a trick I'd read about when I was a kid, and I was creating a parlor show that I've created in my own town, and people come to. It's very intimate, and I wanted to do this trick, and so I showed it to my son, who's very jaded, yes, and my daughter, and I fooled them with it, like literally right under their nose. And when that happened, that was okay. This is going to work, if that makes sense, because
Right.
um, yeah, they've seen stuff their whole life. So if I can get it past them, I'm like, okay, this is going to be good, and it is.
I
It's a
do
great,
I do that with my kids. Like if I try a joke and they laugh, I'm like, wow, because they're not they're not my fans.
right,
So when
right.
they do, now tell me about the White House shows. You did three of them, three
I
times.
did,
Tell me
yeah. So it
about
was under,
that.
it was the under the George Bush, George W.
Just W.
And it was the White House Easter egg roll. Yeah, and every kid thing you can imagine. So I've done a show for years for kids and families called the Pro Kid Show, which is a
Uh-huh.
combination of music and magic and comedy and stories, and it's just a great show. And
At the White House.
so they had a stage out there, and literally it was amazing. And so the Easter egg roll was was a big deal, and kind of every kid thing you can imagine, that was popular at one time or another. They would rotate those things in and out over the years, and so yeah, the Pro Kid Show was actually some friends of mine and co-writers and producers and of the show. In fact, our founder of the show, Steve Pennington is his name, and he was there, and another one of our performers, Tim Hannig in Chicago, he was there uh, over the course of a few years. So it was a great fun thing. The most incredible thing, by the way, first of all, is it's outside, which is always difficult.
Right.
But it's right there on the lawn. I mean, it really is amazing. But the most amazing thing is to watch the Secret Service clear the lawn at the end of the day. That was honestly that was the most amazing part of it, because they clear the entire lawn of hundreds of people without saying a word,
Without saying a word.
without saying one word. It was a great lesson in management of crowd.
Wow,
They didn't
tell
come
me
on a
more.
loudspeaker. They didn't come and say clear the lawn. They used very good um, tactics. They would start it at the top up near, there's this little kind of rollout fence. This was after
Uh-huh.
9/11. And they would stand in pairs,
Uh-huh.
two guys, maybe three guys. And during the event, you really couldn't see them there in the trees that line, the lawn, but they all kind of gathered at the top, kind of a not in formation, but just little
Right.
groups. But they all moved down the hill to the end of the lawn and cleared the whole thing. You could, without saying a word, they would just, like, if you were in the middle of something or a conversation with somebody or whatever, they would just come up and stand uncomfortably close to you and just smile and nod,
And then
and you
they
would just
sleep.
you would just leave. It was, I'm telling you, it was a great lesson in management.
So
Yeah.
have you met the president?
I did not meet
Laura?
him. He wrote me a wonderful letter, and I thank him for that, and a great quote. But I did not meet him. It
Oh,
was soon after 9/11,
right.
and I think they did not want to cancel these events, right?
Right.
But they also, I think, probably thought it might be best that he wasn't there.
So how do you, when you do a show and there's adults and there's kids, who do you gear the show most to, or how can you keep everybody's attention knowing kids have a short attention span?
Oh, uh, my favorite audiences are families, um,
Family. Okay.
family audiences. Um, Kids are not half people. Kids are full people. Uh, Kids are obviously, yeah, still growing, right? But they're still people. Um, and uh, this is what happens a lot of times. A mom and dad will come up to me after the show, and they'll go, "Well, I only came tonight because I heard my kids beg me to come, or I heard about this family show. I didn't really want to come, but this was, I had more fun than my kids." Right? That's the response I've heard over and over again. Excuse me.
Good.
And so I think it's a matter of entertaining and knowing how to entertain just everyone, and not talking down to the kids, and not talking, you know, at them, but they they have a great time. I don't know what else to say it. I guess I was
No,
trained
no.
very well. I had some very good mentors, and just trained and really entertaining the adults, and the kids love it too. So yeah,
Now, you're a pastor and you also you're an evangelist. And we are in a crazy time in the world right now. And there's just a lot
right.
of people who are fearful, a lot of people who are scared what's going on, maybe a third world war, maybe what's going to happen. Uh, does this change the way you share your message or your invitation, your
I
encouragement?
I, I certainly, um, my church particularly always tries to be an encouraging church.
Mm,
Um, in fact, we did something a few weeks ago, where soon after this uh, horrible mess,
yeah.
um, I was preaching on that Sunday. I'm the family and connections pastor,
Mm,
and but I was preaching on that Sunday, and I had the sermon was basically really about not getting down, being encouraged. And so we started something for our church that people could text that Sunday, a word to write and be part of a text list, and then every Monday we send them a Bible verse, an encouraging Bible verse, just to start the week off with.
mm,
And I was encouraged because we had in that service, when I put it on the screen, say, hey, if you want to be part of this, I think it was 135 people instantly texted that and signed
mm,
up for that. And we're not a huge church. We're about 500 is our average, I guess, on Sundays now, 500 and something. Um,
mm,
and so, and then of course later more people texted that, and so I know people are needing that. I know they're needing encouragement, and
mm,
and we want to do that as a church to our own people, um, and ultimately, as you know, laughter is such a powerful medium and powerful um, medicine. And obviously, there's a lot to get down about. I mean, you open the computer and read the news, right? And
yes.
it's horrible. And obviously, people are suffering greatly. Um, However, I know you're familiar with the organization, Laugh All Night, right? They use laughter to raise awareness for kids in Haiti and Dominican Republic, right? I mean,
I
so
had over 250 kids, sponsored through my comedy shows for new missions in Haiti. Yeah,
yeah,
which they
yeah. So
started to laugh all night. Yeah,
so what a brilliant idea, right? To use laughter. It's we could get up there and talk to you about how horrible things are, and they are, but we could also use laughter and again to build that bridge and go. By the way, things aren't great for these kids. Things aren't great right now for many families. So again, you get their attention, share with them, hey, how can we fix this? How can we be? How can we help this? How can we give to this? Um, so I think it's a good balance. I think people are worried and they're scared, um, and ultimately we have to go back to the truth of the gospel and rely on that. And I don't mean that in a Pollyanna way, but
mm,
give thanks even in the midst. I know that the series that our kids are doing on Sunday mornings in our kid worship at our church is on gratitude this month, and that even in the midst of difficulty, that we're to be thankful, and I know that's really difficult for a lot of people right now.
right.
Um,
I was watching this morning, and there's you know, my family's from the Gaza Strip, and I met my wife in the Gaza Strip. I got engaged there. I got married there, and took my kids there. So, uh, there's this 17-year-old kid right now in the Gaza Strip, and what he did every day since the bombing started, he would go up on the roof and start giving the news, what's going on, but he does it laughing, and he just like throws a joke in the midst, and you can hear the bombs being around, and he does this, and like, and then he's like, oh, this, oh, and then he does, I'm still here, and he just, this guy's got millions of followers because they started, actually one of the news media hired him as a press now, so he's now one of, and people just go to him because they can hear what's going on, but he's making them laugh And it's funny, you go, wait a minute, there's 10,000 people dead, killed, and there's 5 kids killed, but he's still making it to where people wanna hear a little laugh here and there. It's just, I'm like, this kid is brilliant. If this kid in the US, I would love to help him, better his comedy. But you're right. People
Right.
need a laugh. But as a family and
Here's
connection,
here.
go ahead.
Let me speak into that for just a minute, because
Yes.
a good friend of mine shared this with me during the well, I guess maybe before the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
Um, people in the '08 crisis of the economic crisis,
Right.
people losing their homes, right?
Right.
Lots of people in Florida. I don't know about California. Lots of people here
Oh, it was
lost their
horrible in
homes,
California. Well,
right? But they still paid their cable bill,
you're
right? They
right.
weren't paying their house payment, maybe not their car payment, but they were still paying their cable bill. Now, that says a lot about us as people. But in other words, that yearning for entertainment, that yearning that is being to escape,
Right.
I think is vital to just trying to keep everything balanced. So I just find that fascinating. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No,
I
no,
do
no,
find
no.
that
You didn't
that,
cut me off. I
that
was just
fascinating.
intrigued by the position that you now have as a family and connection pastor. Tell us where the family at right now. Where's the family at? How are you helping families now?
Uh, so a lot of it is listening, and encouraging mom and dad. And we have a family welcome room in one of our buildings, and it's I go through, there's ages of kids and kind of what they're learning, what they should be learning. It's especially new parents or parents of young children sharing these stages of life with with them, and letting them visually see, these are how many weeks you have when they're 5 years old. This is how many weeks you have when they're 15 years old left with them, ideally, right?
Mm,
This is how many weeks you have when they're 16 or 17 years old. So letting them see this picture and this image of, yeah, I have a really, in the big scheme of things, I have a really short time with my kids. And so what we try to do, from a pastoral point of view and a church point of view, excuse me, is empower them to be better parents. They're not going to be perfect parents, but we can empower them to be better parents by really encouraging them, by letting them know, yeah, you're not perfect at this. You're not going to be perfect at this. You've never done this before, and that's okay. Like learning, but again, it goes back to encouragement, encouraging them, giving them resources if they don't know what to do, telling them resources of using this, and at when they should have these and when they shouldn't have these, and when they do have these, get some control over it. You know, and a lot of parents don't know that. They'll give a kid that device and
yeah.
and just kind of check out. And so just trying to encourage them, to give them, again, a lot of resource, um, and um, and listening and encouraging and letting them know that they're loved ultimately by God, and their children are loved, and um, that they really do need to focus on their family, and they need to do the best they can with what they got right where they are. But
Right.
and one thing that um, our lead pastor says a lot is just get them in church, right? If you'll just show up, if you would just have your kids in church every week, and your students, your teenagers, every week, just get them there, because we all know, like, showing up is half the battle, right? Or more than half the battle.
Right.
Just get
Right.
them there. Uh, you know, don't hang out. Just get them there. Don't I can't make it this week. Just the consistency is so important. And
Important.
we live in a new day, right? The average, if you ask people, are you a regular church attender? The regular church attender says they attend 2 weeks a month. when we were younger, regular church there was every week, maybe twice a week,
Wednesday
right?
and Sunday.
Wednesdays and Sundays. Yeah. Get them there, man. The more you get them there, they will learn, they will listen, they will grow, they will start hiding that word in their heart. You will grow as a family. So part of it's just that, get them there. And uh, you know, I don't want to get on a soapbox too much about that, but they will see where your priorities are as a parent. If you have a priority over, listen, can you take a week off and go to the beach? Absolutely. Can you worship God on the beach? Yes.
Absolutely.
Can you worship in the fort? Absolutely. But the scriptures are pretty clear. Don't forsake the gathering together, right? Don't forsake that. And that's really important. And when you can't make it to church because your kids are playing ball every week, don't be surprised when your kid's 16 or 18 and has no interest in church, because you've set a precedent that that's not important, that this other activity was more important. Can you skip church and go to a ball game? Yeah. Should you do that every week? No. You shouldn't, honestly. And because they're paying attention, they're going to see that. They're going to know, again, what your priorities are.
That's a very good point.
The other thing is this: you can go to church. You can go to church every week, twice a week, and your kids still not get it, right? In other words, you need to live out as best you can what you're learning in church, and being a Christ follower. This is what I share with people. I'm not a perfect parent. I'm far from it. I tried to share with my kids that ultimately it's Christ. I want our family to be Christ-centered and not just church-centered. Now, if you're Christ-centered, right? Christ has some pretty specific instructions about the church. So that will come as a result of being Christ-centered. But being Christ-centered will allow you to, I think, have a healthy attitude about church, and understanding, like, our church is not a museum for saints, as it were. It's a hospital for sinners, right? Yeah. We want you to come there. We want you to bring your kids. We want you to bring your teenagers. We want you to bring your family, and we want you to grow and get better. I was talking to a guy today, who's struggling, and just want you to get better. I want to be better. I want to be better. I want to be a better dad next year than I am right now. And I can do that through a variety of ways. I can read. I can take a seminar. I could take a class. I could do all these things. I could also go to church and work on myself. And if I get myself better, I'll be a better dad. I'll be a better parent. I'll be a better pastor. I'll be a better leader. So that foundation is really important.
Right. Okay. Well, look, we have some of my fans, Melissa and Neil, and there's a Becky L said, my husband tells a lot of jokes, good ones. Hey, and most people get it. That's good coming from the wife. That's good. Let me ask you this, Scott. You have a weekend that you do, a weekend of, what is that like? What does that weekend look like for a church?
Yeah. So we do a couple different things. We do a weekend outreach. Part of that is a school outreaches in public schools. You're like, what do you do in public schools? We entertain them. We teach them great messages of character and family. And we do that and invite them to the church that weekend. We do a Friday night family night. We do a Saturday night event. We do a Sunday morning where I speak, and a Sunday night event.
Yeah.
It's very flexible. So, for the church, it may work for a church for the whole weekend. It may work for a night or two, just depends on what the church needs are. But it really is about taking church and connecting it with community. That's the big thing, especially through school events. And and connecting those back to the church. So it's a blessing for the school. It's a blessing for the church.
That's wonderful. Now, tell me about your book that came out in a few months ago, Sharing Wonder book. What is that about?
I happen to have a copy right here. There you
Oh,
go, right there. There
Sharing
we go.
Wonder book.
Sharing
Yeah,
Wonder.
what is
Yeah.
it about?
So it's really just it's really my story. My mom had told me for a long time, hey, somebody needs to hear your story. And so it really is just kind of my story. It's fun, it's funny, and it's really my journey from being born with this speech impediment, and how um, how God used me and through that. And one of the things I point out in the book about, can can something uh, can something incomplete still uh, still proclaim the good news? Can it still share wonder? Can it still be
Mm,
effective? Yeah, absolutely, right. And so talk about that in the book. Of look at all of the people in the scriptures that just didn't have it together, right? That had a physical problem, or an emotional problem, perhaps, right? Or a variety of issues, a variety of things that, but yet God still used that
mm.
um, in a remarkable way. So, yeah, the book's Sharing Wonder, a magician's memoir, and it's subtitled My Journey Living in Faith, Hope, and Love.
Now,
So,
how
yeah,
long it took you to, first of all, you were born with this, the lip, the
right.
Yep. And I have a family relative who had that. And how long it took you to 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 get back to completely looking, for it to be normal, and then learning how to speak properly? How long did that take?
Yeah, well, really, until I was 18. I had surgeries. I had 6 surgeries. And from being a very small baby, and trying to sew up the palate so that you could eat, right?
Mhm.
And then a bone graft, and they take bone from my hip and put it in my face, and skin from behind my ear, and redo my nose. And then I fell and broke my nose when I was a kid. That's another story. But anyhow, so I had my last surgery when I was 18. Um, but so lots of speech class, lots of orthodontic work, and you know, just kind of literally 18 years, I guess, till you go, okay. My voice was better when I first went to college. Even the what's called the pharyngeal flap, which opens and closes in the back of your mouth, that
Uh-huh.
had they had made one of those for me as a young boy,
Mm,
um, and that had fallen apart. So I had a very nasally voice for a long time, and that's just
mm,
because the air, right? That flap keeps the air from escaping out of the nose, and so even I, in my first year of college, I still had this very nasally voice, and so they fixed that, and he said it would last me till I was in my 70s. So that's coming fast. I don't know. I hope it lasts a
yeah,
while.
that's why I wanted to interview you before you turned 70. No,
That's
I'm
right.
just kidding. Now, how was your confidence level as at that during going through that?
Yeah, my mom would say I was the kind of boy that would sell Cheerios as donut seeds to the neighbors. So,
It
um,
didn't bother you.
yeah, no, it didn't. And I do have to say, if I was ever bullied or picked on, there was a couple moments I remember as a kid that was happening, um, but not very much. I certainly know people that had no outward physical issues, and I talk
Mhm.
about that in my book, actually. But yet, we're I know many people have been relentlessly bullied, but I was really blessed that I didn't
Mhm.
experience that in a terrible way at all. I'll give you one story. I remember I was junior high school, which is terrible for anybody. Okay,
Right.
seventh grade,
I,
eighth grade.
I'm a leader at my junior high church, so I
Oh,
know exactly.
bless you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had to dress out for PE, if you know what that means, right? We had to change clothes, and that's
Yeah.
always awkward. And anyhow, um, I had I had dressed out, but I'd forgot my shoes, my gym shoes this day. And so I think it was in 7th or 8th grade. And so I borrowed a friend of mine's shoes.
Uh-huh.
And everybody was bigger than me. I'm a small guy still, but I was a small kid. And so
Uh-huh.
I wore like, I don't know, probably at that time, size 7 shoe or something. And he was probably size 10 or 11. All I know is I
Oh,
had
no.
these shoes that looked like clown shoes, right? And
Uh-huh.
we had to walk the track. So we're walking the track, don't you love coaches? And so I'm walking the track, and this other kid started messing with me, said a couple things. I don't remember what they were, but he was pushing me.
Yeah.
And I looked him in the face. I said, "Look at me." And he looked at me. I said, "Look at my feet." And he looked down and obviously see these huge shoes. I said, "Don't mess with me." And I walked away. I
Oh,
have no idea
yeah.
where that came from, what it was about. I think it just threw him off, right?
Yeah.
So much. So did the magic help? Yes. Did I overcompensate? Yes. I'm sure I did, and then probably still do to this day. Um, but yeah, just very blessed. And before we run out of time, my dad was the pastor, but my mom really instilled in me the truth of the gospel. And one of the verses she shared with me, which has really become my life verse, was that of Matthew 6:33. And that
Mm.
is to seek his kingdom first and his righteousness. And
No,
then all of these things will be added unto
I
you,
did that
or
to
some
you.
translations say given to you.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean everything's gonna be perfect. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying,
Right.
again, foundation I mentioned earlier, we go back to that foundation and we have that. And it doesn't mean that we don't, but when we're seeking his kingdom first and his righteousness, then all of these things will be added unto us. And that's so clear and true. Um, and we need to be reminded of that, whether we're 6 or 16 or 60.
Right, right. And that's important. And you know what? I think more than ever, we need that right now. We need people to, especially Christians, to seek first the kingdom of God, to know, I think we need to ask ourselves, what would Jesus do in these days? What would he do? And try to be a follower of Jesus. I think a lot of times, some are drawn to politics, some are drawn to all the problems in the world and taking sides and stuff. But I think our job as believers is to seek Christ, to seek his kingdom, to live expecting that he's coming back soon. And I mean sooner than ever now. And I love what you do. You God allowed you, because you seek his kingdom, to be able to do what you love in your gifting, which is the magic and all that, but also to be able to be in a place at church, to be able to encourage families and to encourage kids and all that. What a blessing to be in that position, Scott. Now, how
Thank
can
you.
people get a hold of you? They said, "Oh, I want to encourage you, pastors and leaders, if you're listening, or people who run nonprofit organization. I mean, Scott is clean, funny, hilarious. He gets the audience involved in an amazing way. I'll tell you what, I had a hard time following him, but I mean, praise God, I held my own. But it was like to follow someone who got that audience laughing that hard, and then take him and keep him at that level. It was wonderful, but just
Yeah.
amazing, and
Thank
loves
you.
the Lord. So I want to encourage you, Pastor, to where can they go to book you or to find out more about you?
Yeah. So the easiest way is just my name. It's scotthumston.com. Just put it.
ScottHumston.com.
Yeah. It's SCOTTHUM as in Mary, ST as in Tom, ON as in Nancy. So scotthumston.com. So
I
there
just
you can
I
get a
put
hold of
it
me there, and of course Facebook and Instagram, and I think that's pretty much. I'm on Twitter as well, but I don't do much on
perfect. And
X
to
or
get the
whatever it
book,
is these days. I don't.
yeah,
I can't keep up with it.
where can they get the book?
So the book you can get from me off my website or at scotthumston.shop. It's also
Okay.
available on Amazon
Yeah,
as
but
well.
I always encourage people go to the author's book, website and
Yeah,
buy it from him.
if you buy it on Amazon,
You
the
get
author
two
doesn't get paid
cents.
very much. Yeah, you don't get anything. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'd love to send your copy. And if you're a parent of a special needs child, or you just need encouragement, I think the book would speak to you. I just think it speaks to everyone. It's gotten some good reviews, and it is funny and endearing.
Mm.
But especially for parents that are maybe struggling, and that, oh, what does God have in store for my family or my child,
Mm.
or even myself through this season of life? Listen, we all have a story, and I heard it said like this one time: "There's another you out there that needs to hear your story."
Mm.
And whether that's in the form of a book or a blog post or a podcast or just a Facebook, post occasionally, letting people know and being encouraging to them. I think that's important.
What encouragement do you have for a young magician who's starting out, a
Mm.
Christian one?
Yeah. So first of all, seek His kingdom first and His righteousness. Um, Understand what you're sharing message wise. Um, get as good as you can get and be in front of as many people as you can be in front of as often as you can be in front of them. Um, and practice the craft,
Mm.
and um, just get that just be in front of those audiences as much as you can. Everybody needs a place to be bad, right?
Right.
That was for me. That was my hometown of Lakeland. I could be bad there, and uh, so especially if you're young, just do events, do kids' birthday parties, or whatever you need to do to get the practice down. And I don't mean just the
Mm.
tricks, just the relation practice, audience management, all that sort of thing.
Right.
But then, and this is a really key, um, be the absolute best at what you can be, because when we're representing the gospel, when we're representing Christ, the Creator, then everything we do should be just as good and as top notch as we could possibly be.
I
Um,
second that. Yes. Just because you're
yeah,
doing churches doesn't mean you can be mediocre. That's not
no,
acceptable.
no, we should be the best. I think a great example of that is Chick-fil-A. Perfect example of that.
Yeah.
They're going to be great. Um, they're an organization that's run by Christian family, Christian principles. They're not a Christian company. They're just run by Christian people. And those people want to excel in excellence in what they do. And I think that's really important. Boy, do I think that's important.
Oh, yes.
So
Excel
just,
in excellence. That's what it is. And that's
yeah.
Scott Humston, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time, for being
Thanks,
with
Naz.
me. Yeah, hang on one second. Let me close this show. And thank you guys for watching. It's so good to see some friends that I haven't seen in a while here on the podcast. All 110 people watching live. Thank you so much. And people who are, listening to this when it's on the audio format, thank you. Please subscribe to Laughter for All podcast. And for this Friday, I want to encourage you on November 10th, 2023, at Crossroad Church in Corona, California. We're having our Laughter for All comedy outreach where you can come and laugh, invite your friends. You have 4 headlining acts, and I get to share the gospel at the end after my comedy. And so bring friends and bring a bag of food so we can help the community get fed. So if you can join us, join us. If you can't, you can go to Laughter for All, just support it, sponsor. Not It's too late to sponsor, but you can also donate money to help us do this event in other places in California. This is going to be our 4th event this year. It's all free for people. So we appreciate you coming to the event and supporting it, and keep us in prayer. We're praying that many people would come to know Christ that night, and also the believers would be encouraged and encouraged to go and share their faith with 7 people in 12 months. That's the Change California, Change the Nation campaign that Laughter for All is doing right now. So that's what we do. Thank you so much for watching. Again, scotthumston.com. You can go to him, you can hire him, you can buy the book, you can just whatever, it's just amazing guy in wonderful performance. And want to thank you guys for watching, and keep praying for what's going on in the Holy Land right now. And God bless you. And I appreciate you guys, and have a great night. Thank you.